Let me begin with an observation that may unsettle you. In my many decades of studying markets, analyzing businesses, and teaching students about the nature of investment, I have come to a conclusion that surprises most people when they first hear it. The majority of working individuals who fail to build wealth do not fail because they earn too little. They fail because of what they do in the 72 hours after each paycheck arrives. This is not a comfortable truth. It is much easier to blame external circumstances, the economy, the government, one's employer, inflation, bad luck. And I will not pretend that external forces are irrelevant. They are not. But external forces affect everyone. What differs is the internal response. The habit I am referring to is simple to describe and remarkably difficult to correct. Most people spend first and save what remains. On paper, this sounds reasonable. You receive your paycheck, you pay your rent, your utilities, your groceries, you handle immediate obligations. Perhaps you treat yourself to something, a meal, a purchase, a small luxury. After all, you worked hard. Then, at the end of the pay period, you look at what is left and consider whether any portion might be saved or invested. The problem is that for the overwhelming majority of workers, what remains is nothing or close to nothing. And so the cycle repeats. Paycheck arrives, spending absorbs it, hope floats forward. Perhaps next month will be different. Perhaps a raise will come. Perhaps an opportunity will appear. But next month is not different, and the years pass. I want to be very clear about what I am offering in this discussion. I am not offering excitement. I am not offering predictions about which stocks will rise or which sectors will boom. I am not offering shortcuts or secret strategies known only to elite investors. What I am offering is a process, a framework, a set of principles that I have taught for decades and that remain as relevant today as they were when I first articulated them. These principles work, but they require something that most financial advice conveniently ignores. They require you to behave differently than you currently behave. Not occasionally, consistently. The paycheck is your raw material. It is the seed of capital. And if you consume the seed before it is planted, no amount of investment sophistication matters. Nothing can grow from soil that never received the seed in the first place. Let me explain why this particular habit is so devastating and why it operates so invisibly. The human mind is not designed for long-term financial planning. This is not a moral failing. It is a structural reality. We evolved in environments where immediate needs dominated. Food today mattered more than food next year. Shelter tonight mattered more than shelter next decade. Our brains reward immediate comfort and punish delayed gratification with a feeling of deprivation. When you receive your paycheck, you experience a small psychological lift. Money has arrived. Possibilities seem to open. And in that moment, the mind naturally gravitates toward relieving present discomfort, whether that discomfort is genuine need, mild desire, or simply boredom. The problem compounds because modern commerce has become extraordinarily skilled at converting your paycheck into purchases before you have time to think. There is another force at work as well: social comparison. Human beings evaluate their own circumstances, not in absolute terms, but relative to the people around them. When your neighbor buys a new car, when your colleague takes an expensive vacation, when your social media feed fills with images of consumption, your brain registers a gap, and that gap feels like pain. The easiest way to relieve that pain is to spend. I have heard countless variations of a phrase that signals trouble. The phrase is, I deserve it. I worked hard this week. I deserve a nice dinner. I closed a big project. I deserve a new watch. I survived a difficult month. I deserve a vacation I cannot afford. The word deserve is dangerous because it reframes spending as justice rather than choice. It short-circuits evaluation, and it accumulates purchase after purchase until the pattern becomes invisible, simply part of who you are. Now let me introduce a concept that I believe is essential to understanding why this matters. In my work, I have always defined risk differently than most market participants. Risk, as I understand it, is not volatility. It is not the daily fluctuation of prices. It is not the temporary decline in value that frightens inexperienced investors. Risk is the probability of permanent damage to your financial position. When you consume your paycheck entirely, you are taking on risk of the most serious kind. You are not temporarily losing value. You are permanently preventing value from forming. The money is gone. It cannot recover. It cannot compound. It cannot provide a margin of safety against future difficulty. And here is the aspect that makes this habit so quiet in its destruction. There is no immediate consequence. If you spent unwisely this month, nothing dramatic happens tomorrow. No alarm sounds, no penalty arrives. Your life continues approximately as it was. This absence of immediate feedback creates a dangerous illusion, the illusion that the behavior is harmless. But wealth is built through accumulation over time. And accumulation over time is simply another term for compounding. When compounding works in your favor, small amounts become large amounts. When compounding works against you, or when it is absent entirely, you remain stationary while the years pass and prices rise around you. Consider a small illustration. A worker who saves nothing and spends entirely year after year arrives at age 50 with nothing but future income as their only resource. Their past labor has produced nothing durable. A worker who captures even 10% of each paycheck and directs it consistently into sound investments builds something that exists independently of future labor. That something is capital. Capital works when you sleep. Capital provides options. Capital creates a buffer against misfortune. The difference between these two workers is not income, it is behavior. One planted seed, one did not. And now, decades later, one has a harvest. One has only the need to keep planting forever. I must now address a confusion that I encounter constantly and that contributes greatly to the paycheck trap. Most people conflate earning with building. They believe that if they earn more, they will automatically build wealth. This is false. It is demonstrably, empirically false. The evidence surrounds us. Consider the number of high-income professionals, doctors, lawyers, executives who reach their late careers with astonishingly little accumulated capital. Consider the professional athletes and entertainers who earn in a few years what most workers will earn in a lifetime and yet find themselves in financial distress shortly after their careers end. Earning and building are separate activities. Earning is the conversion of time and labor into income. Building is the conversion of income into durable capital that generates returns independently of labor. Most people focus exclusively on earning. They believe that the solution to financial problems is always higher income. And while higher income certainly provides more raw material, it solves nothing if the habit remains unchanged. Someone who spends every dollar of a $50,000 salary will spend every dollar of a $100,000 salary and often more, because higher earnings are typically accompanied by higher lifestyle expectations. This is what might be called lifestyle inflation. The disease that ensures your standard of living always expands to absorb your resources, leaving no surplus for capital formation. Building requires a different orientation entirely. Building requires treating some portion of income as non-negotiable, as belonging to your future rather than your present. I have often emphasized the importance of what might be called the first serious savings milestone. I am referring to the moment when an individual has accumulated a sum that is psychologically real to them, not a theoretical concept, not a small balance that fluctuates with every expense, but a meaningful amount that creates a sense of substance. For some, this might be $5,000. For others, it might be $20,000. The specific number matters less than the psychological transition. Once this base of capital exists, behavior tends to change. Protecting the base becomes important. Adding to it becomes satisfying. Watching it grow even slowly provides something that consumption cannot provide, a sense of trajectory rather than stasis. Early stage wealth is built more by behavior than by investment brilliance. This is a statement I want to emphasize because the financial media creates a contrary impression. The headlines celebrate spectacular returns, genius investors, and extraordinary strategies. They ignore the foundation that makes any strategy possible in the first place, capital. Without capital, you cannot invest. Without regular additions to capital, you cannot compound meaningfully. Without protection of capital, you are always starting from zero. An individual who saves consistently for 20 years and invests those savings in an ordinary, diversified manner will almost certainly accumulate more wealth than an individual who saves sporadically, invests brilliantly for a few years, and then stops. The consistency matters more than the brilliance. Let me offer a simple illustration. Suppose a person saves $500 per month for 30 years and earns an average return of 7% annually on those savings. At the end of 30 years, this person will have accumulated approximately $560,000. Now, suppose a different person waits 10 years, saves nothing, and then decides to become serious. To reach the same outcome by age 60, this person would need to save roughly $1,100 per month, more than double, because they have only 20 years of compounding instead of 30. The first investor did nothing exceptional, no special knowledge, no insider access, no timing the market, simply consistent behavior extended over time. The second investor, no matter how clever, faces an arithmetic disadvantage that is nearly impossible to overcome. Time is the ally of the consistent and the enemy of the delayed. This brings me back to the paycheck. Every paycheck is an opportunity to build, and every paycheck that passes without building is an opportunity permanently lost. I would like now to share the principles that I believe address this problem at its root. These principles are not new. They are not original. They are, in fact, quite old, because they reflect truths about markets and human nature that do not change with fashion. Asterisk, asterisk, A. Capital preservation comes before ambition. Asterisk, asterisk. The first principle is perhaps the most counterintuitive for eager individuals who want to grow their wealth quickly. Before you concern yourself with growing capital, you must concern yourself with not losing it. This seems obvious when stated directly, but it is routinely ignored in practice. Beginning investors fixate on return. They ask, how much can I make? They compare performance numbers. They seek the highest gains. What they fail to ask is, how much might I lose? And what would that loss mean for my ability to continue? A 50% loss requires a 100% gain to recover. This arithmetic is merciless, and it applies not only to investment portfolios, but to financial life broadly. If your spending habits leave you with nothing at the end of each month, you have no buffer against difficulty. A car repair, a medical expense, a temporary job loss, any of these can force you into debt, which is a form of capital destruction. Preserve the base first, growth can follow. Asterisk, asterisk, B, the margin of safety applied to personal finance. Asterisk, asterisk. The second principle is one that I have emphasized throughout my career, and it applies to personal finance just as it applies to security selection. Require a margin of safety in everything you do. In investment, this means purchasing securities at prices significantly below their estimated value, so that even if your estimate is wrong, you have room for error. In personal finance, this means maintaining reserves beyond what you expect to need so that unexpected events do not destroy your position. The emergency buffer is not a luxury. It is a structural requirement. It is what allows you to avoid foolish decisions under pressure, selling investments at the worst time, taking on predatory debt, compromising your career options out of desperation. I recommend building a buffer equivalent to several months of living expenses before pursuing any aggressive investment strategy. This buffer is not exciting. It earns little. It sits there doing apparently nothing, but its value becomes apparent in a crisis. When others are forced to sell, you can hold. When others are forced to accept bad terms, you can wait. When others make decisions from fear, you can make decisions from stability. Conservative assumptions are also part of the margin of safety. Do not budget based on optimistic scenarios. Do not assume that your income will rise steadily. Do not assume that expenses will remain constant. Assume instead that setbacks will occur because they will. Build your financial life to withstand them. Asterisk, asterisk, C. Temperament over IQ. Asterisk, asterisk. The third principle addresses something that most financial education ignores: temperament. Self-control beats cleverness. I have seen many intelligent people fail financially, and many individuals of ordinary intelligence succeed admirably. The difference was not analytical capability. It was temperament. Can you resist an impulse? Can you tolerate boredom? Can you continue a plan when it produces no excitement? Can you avoid doing something when doing nothing is correct? These are questions of character, not intellect, and they are particularly relevant to the paycheck problem. Spending is easy. It feels good. It delivers immediate feedback. Saving is difficult. It feels like deprivation. Its rewards are distant and abstract. No amount of financial knowledge compensates for an inability to control impulse. Conversely, a person of modest knowledge but strong self-discipline will generally build more wealth than a sophisticated analyst who cannot resist spending. Asterisk, asterisk, D. Mr. Market Psychology, asterisk, asterisk. The fourth principle concerns emotional decision-making, and I will frame it in terms of a concept I have used for years. Imagine that your financial decisions are observed by a figure I call Mr. Market. Mr. Market is emotional, erratic, and unreliable. He shows up every day with a different mood. Some days he is euphoric and believes everything will rise forever. Other days he is despondent and believes disaster is imminent. Mr. Market's moods are contagious. If you pay attention to him, you will find yourself buying when he is euphoric and prices are high, and selling when he is despondent and prices are low. This is the opposite of sound behavior. The lesson is simple. Ignore Mr. Market's moods. Applied to personal spending, this means ignore the emotional climate. Do not spend more because you feel optimistic. Do not save less because others seem prosperous. Your financial system should be immune to mood, yours and everyone else's. Automation helps. Rules help. What helps most is recognizing that emotions are not information, they are noise. Asterisk, asterisk, E. The defensive investor mindset, asterisk, asterisk. The fifth principle addresses what I consider the appropriate approach for most working individuals. I divide investors into two categories, defensive and enterprising. The defensive investor seeks safety and freedom from effort. The defensive investor does not have the time, interest, or expertise to analyze securities individually. And crucially, the defensive investor does not pretend otherwise. For most people with regular jobs and limited time for financial study, the defensive posture is correct. What does this mean in practice? Simplicity. A defensive investor does not need complex strategies. A simple allocation to broad, diversified funds is sufficient. Diversification. A defensive investor does not concentrate holdings in individual stocks or speculative positions spread widely so that no single failure is catastrophic. Low costs. A defensive investor avoids excessive fees which compound against you just as returns compound for you. Every dollar paid in unnecessary fees is a dollar removed from your wealth permanently. Consistent contributions. A defensive investor does not attempt to time the market. Contributions are made regularly, regardless of market conditions. Over time, this approach produces reasonable results with minimal anxiety. This is not an exciting approach. It is not the subject of breathless financial commentary. But for the vast majority of working people, it is the correct approach. It produces results that, while not spectacular, are reliably positive over long periods. Asterisk, asterisk, F. The enterprising investor mindset, asterisk, asterisk. The sixth principle concerns a different category entirely. The enterprising investor is willing and able to devote time, discipline, and analysis to investment decisions. The enterprising investor seeks superior returns and is prepared to work for them. This approach is valid, but it is demanding and appropriate for only a minority of individuals. If you wish to pursue an enterprising approach, you must meet several requirements. You must have time. Serious analysis cannot be done in minutes between meetings. It requires sustained attention. You must have discipline. An enterprising investor must adhere to strict criteria and reject most opportunities. The temptation to invest in exciting stories must be resisted continuously. You must have patience. Sound opportunities do not appear constantly. There may be long periods when the correct action is no action. And you must never confuse confidence with certainty. The future is unknowable. Any analysis is an estimate subject to error. Humility is essential. I offer a warning here. Many people who consider themselves enterprising investors are actually speculators in disguise. They trade frequently, follow tips, act on emotion, and confuse activity with progress. If you cannot honestly meet the requirements I have described, the defensive posture is not a retreat, it is wisdom, asterisk, asterisk, G. Clear warnings, asterisk, asterisk. The seventh principle consists of specific warnings that I believe are necessary. Avoid leverage as a beginner. Borrowing to invest magnifies gains, but it also magnifies losses. For someone still building a capital base, the risk of ruin outweighs any potential benefit. Avoid hot tips. If someone tells you that they have special information about a stock or opportunity, be skeptical. Sound investments are not secrets. They are conclusions drawn from publicly available information through careful analysis. Avoid the phrase, "I'll make it back later." This phrase signals trouble. It represents the emotional commitment to a previous decision rather than rational evaluation of current conditions. Past losses cannot be recovered by taking greater risks. They can only be compounded. Avoid buying narratives instead of value. A compelling story about a company, an industry, or a technology is not the same as value. Value is determined by analysis of financial statements, competitive position, and reasonable projections. Stories are entertainment. Asterisk, asterisk, tying it all together, asterisk, asterisk. Every one of these principles ultimately returns to the paycheck. If you do not capture a portion of your paycheck reliably, none of these principles can compound in your favor. You will have no capital to preserve. You will have no buffer for a margin of safety. Your temperament will not matter because there are no investments to hold or avoid. Mr. Market will be irrelevant because you have no position in the market. The framework begins with the paycheck, and the paycheck begins with a choice made before the money is touched. What portion belongs to the future? I want now to describe a practical system for addressing the paycheck problem, but I must begin with an observation about motivation. Most financial advice relies on motivation as its primary engine. You are encouraged to feel inspired, to want success badly enough, to visualize your goals, to summon willpower. This approach fails. It fails because motivation is unreliable. It fluctuates with mood, with fatigue, with external circumstances. You cannot depend on motivation to produce consistent behavior month after month, year after year. What you can depend on is structure, rules, automation. The system I will describe does not require you to feel motivated. It requires you to make decisions once and then remove the opportunity for deviation. The core principle is this: the moment the paycheck arrives, it must be divided according to predetermined rules. Not after you have paid some bills, not after you have assessed what is left, before any spending decision is made. The allocation has already occurred. Here is a suggested framework. I present it as an example, not as a universal prescription. Circumstances vary, but the structure is applicable broadly. Asterisk, asterisk, category 1, the safety base, asterisk, asterisk. Before any other allocation, a portion of each paycheck flows to a liquid, accessible account that serves as your emergency buffer. This is not investment capital. This is protection. It earns minimal returns. It sits there, available. If your buffer is below your target level, perhaps 3 to 6 months of living expenses, this allocation takes priority. If your buffer is fully funded, this contribution can be reduced or redirected. Asterisk, asterisk. Category 2, debt control. Asterisk, asterisk. If you carry high interest debt, credit cards, personal loans, certain financing arrangements, a portion of each paycheck must address this directly. Debt is negative compounding. Interest accumulates against you. Paying down debt is mathematically equivalent to earning a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate. No investment strategy makes sense while you are simultaneously paying 18% interest on credit card balances. Stop the bleeding first. Asterisk, asterisk. Category 3, automatic investment, asterisk, asterisk. Once safety and debt are addressed, a fixed portion of each paycheck flows automatically into an investment account. The word automatically is essential. If you must make a decision each pay period, should I invest this month? How much? You will make the wrong decision eventually. Life will intervene. Expenses will seem more pressing. The market will seem unfavorable. Excuses will accumulate. Remove the decision. Set up automatic transfers that occur without your intervention. The money moves before you have the opportunity to spend it. The amount matters less than the consistency. Start where you can, increase when you can, but never stop. For most defensive investors, this money should flow into simple, diversified, low-cost funds, broad market exposure, minimal fees, no active management required. Asterisk, asterisk. Category 4, controlled spending, asterisk, asterisk. What remains after the first 3 categories is available for spending. This is your discretionary income. It covers lifestyle expenses, entertainment, purchases, and the various costs of daily life. Notice the structure. Spending is not first. Spending is last. It is the residual after essential allocations have occurred. But here is an important nuance. Spending should not be guilt-ridden. Once the first 3 categories are addressed, the remainder is genuinely available. You do not need to feel conflicted about spending it. You have already met your obligations to the future. This structure removes the endless negotiation between present and future. The negotiation happened once when you set the rules. Now it happens automatically every pay period without further deliberation. Asterisk, asterisk. Why automation matters. Asterisk, asterisk. Automation is not merely convenient. It is a margin of safety for human weakness. I have studied human behavior in financial contexts for many years. The consistent finding is that people do not behave rationally. They intend to save but fail to follow through. They plan to invest but defer the decision. They know what they should do but do not do it. Automation converts intention into action. It removes the gap between knowing and doing. When the allocation happens automatically, you cannot sabotage yourself. The money has moved before your impulses can intervene. This is not a judgment on character. It is an acknowledgement of reality. Even disciplined individuals have weak moments. Systems that do not depend on continuous discipline outperform systems that do. I want now to offer a practical sequence for implementing what I have described. This is a 30-day process divided into weekly phases designed to be achievable without dramatic disruption. Asterisk, asterisk, week 1, identify leaks and triggers. Asterisk, asterisk. The first week is devoted to observation and honesty. Gather your financial records from the past 3 months, bank statements, credit card statements, any documentation of where money has flowed. Categorize every expense. Be specific, not just entertainment, but the specific types of entertainment. Not just shopping, but the specific categories of purchases. Identify the leaks. These are recurring expenses that provide minimal lasting value. Subscriptions you do not use. Services you have forgotten. Small purchases that have accumulated into significant sums. Identify the triggers. These are the situations that prompt impulsive spending. Stress, boredom, social occasion, certain apps or websites, specific times of day. Do not judge yourself during this week. Simply observe. Accuracy is more important than comfort. At the end of the week, you should have a clear picture of where your money actually goes, which is often quite different from where you believe it goes. Asterisk, asterisk, week 2, build the buffer rule. Asterisk, asterisk. The second week focuses on establishing your safety base. Determine your target buffer amount. A reasonable starting point is 3 months of essential living expenses. If your circumstances involve unusual instability, irregular income, uncertain employment, consider a larger buffer. Assess your current position. How much liquid savings do you currently have? What is the gap between your current position and your target? Establish a buffer contribution rule. This is a fixed amount or percentage that will flow to your buffer account each pay period until the target is reached. If possible, set up this contribution to occur automatically on the day your paycheck arrives. If your buffer is already adequately funded, this week can focus on confirming that it remains intact and has not been gradually depleted. The buffer is not glamorous. It earns little, but its presence changes everything. It converts financial life from fragile to resilient. Asterisk, asterisk, week 3, automate contributions and set a defensive baseline. Asterisk, asterisk. The third week focuses on establishing your investment structure. If you have not already, open an investment account appropriate for your circumstances. For many workers, this will be a retirement account offered through an employer, which often includes matching contributions. Failing to capture matching contributions is the equivalent of refusing free money. Determine your initial investment contribution. This should be an amount you can sustain consistently, even if it seems modest. Sustainability matters more than size. Choose a simple, diversified investment approach. For defensive investors, this typically means a single diversified fund or a simple allocation between stocks and bonds appropriate for your age and circumstances. Automate the contribution. The money should move without your intervention on a schedule tied to your pay cycle. At the end of this week, you should have a system in place that builds capital without requiring ongoing decisions. Asterisk, asterisk, week 4. Create your rule book and spending ceiling. Asterisk, asterisk. The fourth week focuses on structure for spending and protection against impulsive behavior. Create what I will call a personal Mr. Market rule book. This is a written document, even a simple note that specifies rules for financial decisions. Examples might include, I will not make any purchase over a specified amount without waiting 48 hours. I will not add new recurring subscriptions without eliminating an existing one. I will not check investment account balances more frequently than once per month. I will not make investment changes based on news headlines or market movement. These rules are personal. They should address your